Well, good morning, folks, and welcome to another edition of Friday Morning Live. It is October 22nd, 2021, and what a glorious day in the state of Florida. Certainly up here in North Florida, we are experiencing some cooler mornings, and so we are enjoying them, and I'm sure those around the state are as well, maybe not as cool in the high 50s, low 60s in the morning. But welcome, everybody. We're excited to have another Friday Morning Live with our guest from Citizens, Carl Rockman. We'll invite Carl on in just a sec to get his take on some of the things that are happening in and outside the world of Citizens. But a couple housekeeping things. There's yours truly. Just a reminder, the website, fai.com, go under the education tab and you'll see all the upcoming classes. Continue to be virtual, but we are the schedule is being updated almost weekly, and we will start doing some live in-person classes after the first of the year. So look for that for those cities that were coming near you. And if you'd like to enter the classroom again and be with some of your colleagues and others in the industry, certainly take advantage of those in-person classes that'll be scheduled beginning in January. So, and just a reminder, session is early this year. It begins in January, and so our Capital Days and our YAC Political Summit are also early in January. You see the dates on your screen there. So I would highly recommend you get your hotel reservations and register for this great event. If you've seen a lot of the press recently, has to do with ACV on roofs is certainly a hot topic. What to do about the growth of Citizens and how we really stabilized the private market so Citizens growth can be kind of suppressed more than it is right now. So recommend you join us for Capital Days. It's certainly a great event. We'd like everybody from the state to come up to Tallahassee and spend a couple days with us. And this year is no exception. So a lot of insurance issues will be addressed in the Florida legislature. And so take this time from this slide to just go to the website and register and get your hotel reservations at the Doubletree, which is the host hotel. Next week, next Friday on October 29th, we have an IMS partner, RMS Hospitality Group. They really are a group, an MGA that specializes in bars and nightclubs and franchise type risks. So certainly join us next week and learn about this program and see how they can partner with you and help you grow that book of business, or for those that want to get into that field or that class of business, certainly RMS Hospitality, which is part of the FMS IMS group that we have here at FAI as a member benefit. So, all right, today's topic, Citizens, hot topics and answering your questions. And that's really the key to this. And Carl and I spoke last night, and it's really been the key to every one of these power hours is your questions. So we really promote throwing the questions in there, getting them in there as quickly as you can as things come up as his presentation ensues. But certainly if anything's on your mind dealing with Citizens, now's the time to post it in the question pane and we'll get it answered. And if we can't answer it during the power hour, we'll certainly get you an answer offline. But want to bring in our friend Carl Rockman. Let me unmute Carl. And nope, Carl, you're unmuted. Good morning.
Good morning, Dave. Thanks for having me.
So just let me go back a slide, but there's Carl. So, yeah, Carl, as I elevate you to a presenter, and you're going to take over the slides on your end and run the show. So I'll give you, there you go. But yeah, again, I've been working with Carl for the last several years, and certainly has been an integral part of the relationship that we've been able to build and try to facilitate. Getting our members some answers, getting them to the right slots. Carl has certainly built out a team now of folks there that are very engaged with member agencies, both virtually and certainly when time permits, going into the agency themselves. So, but again, welcome, Carl, and we really appreciate your time. And again, folks, if you have questions, please post them in the question pane, and we'll address them as we go along. But take it away, Carl.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And I do echo Dave's commentary. The value of the next hour is really in the questions that come from the audience. I've got a few slides that I think will set the stage and address some of the questions and concerns you might have about citizens. But ultimately, it's about what's on your mind as agents. So I'm very interested in those questions. As Dave mentioned, the chat is a great feature to address those. So if you had anything on your mind about citizens, would love to talk about it this morning. But let me set the stage with a couple of items. First of all, this is me, as Dave mentioned, but more importantly, my phone and email address are available down there. I'm accessible, I'm available, and really here to make sure that the experience citizens provides to you as an agent is as good as it is in the private market. Okay, we aspire to not be anything more different than the regular companies you work with, and I think we've come a long way, but we'll be the first to acknowledge we want to get better every day, and that's what today's really about. I want to acknowledge, though, our great partnership with FAIA, not only Dave's chairmanship of our Market Accountability Committee, but also John Garner and Robert Norberg, who are part of our Agent Roundtable. We have an active Agent Roundtable that gives it the citizen senior staff straight. What's on the minds of the agents? What can we do to improve? What can we do to get better? But more importantly, what's happening in the marketplace? And both John and Robert do a fantastic job of giving citizens that needed intel from the agent community to make sure that we're on track with developing the support and the systems and the things that you need to serve the customers we mutually serve. Dave did mention, though, and
Carl, let me just stop you right there. Just pull that slide back up, please.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Folks, these are two gentlemen that have been on the roundtable for quite a while, certainly have served FAI very well. If you have an interest in being part of the Agent Roundtable on behalf of FAI, please send me a note. And certainly, as these two gentlemen serve on certain terms, we can certainly engage others in this process. So if you have some interest in serving on this committee and some of the other things that we do here at FAI, please reach out, dnewell@fai.com, and certainly we'll get back with you with some opportunities. So thanks for saying that, Carl.
Yeah, thank you for that pause, Dave, and really encourage anyone that's got an interest. Even if you want to understand more about it, reach out to Dave or myself. We'd be happy to tell you, what a day in the life of an ART member is with citizens. But you will have access to senior leadership at Citizens, and if you have some particular passion about citizens and the way we work, the ART may be a vehicle for you to help us. Dave mentioned, though, a network of professional folks, and we do have them. There's 6 of them out there right now. And if any of you are out there getting back into the citizens game, getting back into meeting citizens because of the market conditions, please don't suffer in silence. We can be a little bit different to work with just because of who we are, but these 6 great professional folks have helped hundreds of agents navigate the waters of citizens, help with our systems, help with our procedures, help with advocacy, or just to be a sounding board, okay? These are great folks. A lot of you already have relationships with them, but more importantly, if we see that your agency needs help, if we see on some report or some dashboard that you might need a little help with delivering the customer experience we both aspire to, okay? These folks are going to dial you up, email you. Please take their call, all right? They are not looking for a rollover. They are looking to help. They're looking to make sure that you've got the tools and the knowledge necessary if you need citizens to be great at it, all right? So these great folks are available. A lot of you know them. Maybe today could be the beginning of building a relationship with some of these folks.
Yeah, the other thing on that point, Carl, is as we've unfortunately have gone through a couple receiverships over the last year to 18 months. Citizens has used these professionals as an outboard resource. They have made outbound calls. They have reached
Yes.
out to certain agencies. They have helped facilitate conversations among different groups. So that's another tool that they're using in their tool belt to help agents in this regard. We hope there's not another failure, but we're in Florida, and we know there's certainly a possibility when the wind blows of what can happen in the marketplace. But again, Carl and his team have built out something that has been trying to be more proactive and not just reactive. So just if you need them, they're up there on the screen. If you have any questions, reach out to Carl or myself, and we'll get you to the right person.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave, for that and that support. A couple stage setters. If you're interested in what's happening in the marketplace with Citizens, let me run you through just a couple of slides that'll give you some perspective. This slide always tends to get people's attention because what it shows is the dependency on Citizens from an agency perspective. You can see December of 20, we were at 4,700 retail agencies. We currently stand at 5,200. These are agencies. Appointed agents, 8,000 in December, 8,700 in September. This is the size of some companies. We're growing at that agent level, okay? And then the licensed customer reps. And it's not all from Tri-County, Dave. We've talked about this. This market issue typically is always a Tri-County phenomenon, but our growth is not coming from Tri-County. It's coming from non-traditional areas of the state. Some of you who may be on the phone today, Solo County, Southwest Florida, right? Areas that haven't had a need for Citizens in the past are starting now to have a need for us. And that's okay if it's done appropriately, right? And if you need us, we want to make sure you're getting the support you need. The other piece to this, Dave, is in December of 20, we had 15 agencies that had more than 2,000 Citizens. I've got 24 now. And if you follow this bouncing ball, you can see the movement, the dependency on Citizens, right? So we're monitoring that. We care about it. If you're going to need Citizens, we want to make sure that we've got the support and the education for you and your team to be great at it, okay? And please don't be shy, because we won't be shy if we think you need some help.
You know,
Quickly,
Carl,
all of us. Yes, Dave.
Yeah, I suspect most on this have an appointment already, but just let's pause here and just kind of walk through just a little bit for those that may now find themselves needing a Citizens appointment. What is that like? What's the steps? Can you just kind of briefly talk about that?
Yeah, the steps to become a Citizens agent. Essentially, what you need statutorily is at least one appointment with an admitted carrier who's writing business. Okay, so it really starts there. We're governed by that. But assuming you have at least that one appointment, you can go to our citizensfla.com public website, locate the agency page, and you'll see a link there to become a Citizens agency. All right. And we can follow up with that content, Dave, to show people the instructions to do that. But essentially, once you hit that web page, you'll fill out a form, and that will initiate the onboarding process. Our great administrative team will take it from there, email credentialing to our education site. We have an online education course that you'll need to complete to make sure you're compliant with all of our standards and practices. And there is a $125 fee for every appointed agent, okay? From there, you can expect a contact from one of our agency field managers who will introduce themselves and make sure that you're getting the support you need. But becoming a Citizens agent administratively, you can do it on our public website, but we want to make sure that it's just beyond the application, that you understand our systems, the requirements, and that you don't find yourself in a situation where you're either struggling needlessly or getting outside the lines from a compliance perspective, because we're very, very committed to an even playing field and very, very committed to living into our statutory obligations. But public websites where it starts.
Yeah, just again, there may be some on this call today that are may not have an appointment or thinking about it and try to have shied away, but unfortunately, in today's marketplace, you may have to use them as a resource until we stabilize some of the private market.
Absolutely. And this may be not a surprise to some, but those of you that have been through the cycles in the state of Florida, this is the citizen cycle. This is our policies in force since 2003. And you can see as the market hardens, Citizens becomes bigger. As the market softens, we shrink. But guess what's been happening? See those blue lines? Okay. The trend is starting to turn. Why? All of us have seen this. Market capacity, eligibility, all of you are out there feeling it. What's interesting, though, the last two insolvencies, while they've happened, Citizens hasn't been the net receiver or the greatest receiver of those policies. The market was still able to absorb policies associated with AMCAP and Gulfstream. And Dave, we sure are optimistic. We don't want another insolvency. We're hoping that the market will, absorb anything that might come their way or our way. It certainly happened in the past. But for those of you that thought that when Gulfstream went insolvent, everything came to Citizens, the private market had solutions. The private market stepped in, agents stepped in to make sure those customers had other options than Citizens. Okay. And this is also what we're seeing in terms of growth. All of you are living this with carriers changing their underwriting requirements, restricting new business, getting tighter. This is all things that people know, but know that we know it. We know our growth is driven by private market capacity. We know that as markets tighten, there's more reliance on Citizens. We just want to make sure you're getting the support and that you're doing it correctly. Here's the trend, though, David. New business. This exhibit really talks about new business growth over the same time period last year. And this tells the story. For these same 4 months last year, we were getting 16,500 new business policies on average a week. Look at what we're getting now, 30,000. 30,000. And it's coming from areas, not just South Florida, but look at Tampa Bay, look at Southwest, look at Monroe. These are areas that we traditionally have not seen other than Monroe. A lot of new business. That's a reflection of the marketplace. We're also seeing business in coverage A limits that we don't traditionally see. Look at this $500,000 and above. 5% of my business is $500,000 of coverage A or above, and less than 11 years. 3% of my new business is less than 11 years. That's astonishing. This is also, though, the opportunity, because we're going to talk about depop. It is coming. All right. We anticipate and we have to have it. And it's this business, this better business that we're writing, that we want to aggressively make sure it gets remarketed quickly as the market improves. This is where it's coming from. These are the carriers that are driving new business to us. We obviously monitor the carrier someone comes from when they come to Citizens. And a lot of you are familiar with these carriers. These are the big carriers in Florida. Probably not a surprise, but why? Rates. Okay. This is what's driving the shopping. This is the 2-year cumulative rate change for the biggest carriers in Florida. And I work with independent agents and agents my whole career. Shopping is both a good thing and a bad thing. It creates great opportunity, but if you're trying to retain a book, wow, all of a sudden your customers are calling you looking for solutions. And regrettably and unfortunately, Citizens may be part of that equation. We don't want that to be the case. We're not trying to grow. But if you feel the need or your customers have a need for Citizens, that's where we want to make sure that we're giving you the support that you need. But these rates are really driving the show. And Dave, I'm sure this is something you've seen or talked about with your members, just in terms of market conditions and what's happening out there.
Yeah, and again, some of this data, as you know, Carl, and we've talked about this in some of the meetings, a lot of carriers now are keeping this data under lock and key, so to speak, as they do. And so we don't get it readily available as we used to, because they deem it trade secret. But we do talk about rates. We talk about, consolidation of underwriting guides and appetites and all that stuff. So you're exactly right. That's, everybody on this call today, they're feeling it every day as they try to deal with this marketplace.
Right. So it's creating a lot of shopping, and it's creating, the market conditions that we're dealing with. But I wanted to share this with the group to know that we know it, we acknowledge it, and we just have to weather the storm right now and make sure that the customers out there are well served and getting the protection they need. Dave, I want to pivot a bit. That's the market. But I want to talk about Citizens. Let's talk about the road ahead, because I know a lot of the folks came to today's Power Hour to what the heck is Citizens got up its sleeve? What can I expect if I'm going to do Citizens or work with Citizens? What does the road ahead look like? So we put this slide together to give you a little forecasting. I'm going to hit some of the highlights on this slide. So if you think about your Citizens book of business, whether it's 10 policies or 1,000 policies, this is what Citizens is going to be bringing over the next 4 quarters, okay? First of all, I want to talk about the inflation adjustment we took in Q4. And Dave, I know this got your attention and some of the attention of your members. We did communicate this inflation adjustment out to the agents a couple weeks ago. It was probably the most significant inflation adjustment we've taken, and it is impacting renewals effective February 1st and after, okay? So a lot of you may be seeing your Citizens Coverage A value increase because of inflation, and correspondingly the price increase because of inflation. But I think all of us are dealing with inflation in multiple ways, but know that this was something we wanted to make sure agents were very much aware of, because it is going to impact your 2-1 renewals, okay, so, in a fairly significant way. So please monitor those. Be aware that your customers may be dialing you, your Citizens customers, wondering, what happened and how it happened, and it's primarily driven by the inflation factors associated with rebuilding homes, construction, all the things that we know is out in the marketplace. Okay.
Carl, as we walk through that, and certainly had many members reach out about this, in the bulletin certainly spelled out, providing some options. If they don't quite understand it or they need a little bit help, how can they, kind of raise the level of their concern beyond, the call center? What's that process look like if the agent feels like they need a second look?
Well, I think the field manager network that I put up a little while ago, Dave, is probably the next best source. Our call center certainly knows how to appropriately advise agents who may feel that they need a second look at the inflation. And we also allow agents to reapply and rework the inflation or rework the RCE on an existing policy. It's not uncommon. Now it's underwritten, right? The other thing is we do allow alternate values. So if you're working with a different estimating tool other than CoreLogic's RCT Express, and you want to build that out and present to our underwriters a different coverage A value based on that, that's acceptable as well. So our call center knows how to guide people through that, but come back to those field managers, please. If you don't feel like you got a fair shake or you want a second, that's what they're there for. Okay, and they will absolutely give you the advice and counsel and advocacy. I can't promise that it'll move, but certainly if you're not feeling good about the experience or want to advocate for a customer, let us know. Okay, we certainly want to make sure we reach the right conclusions for those customers, that you're confident in what we came up with. But I also want to make sure agents know about the alternate value program as well, Dave.
Yeah, and just a reminder, folks, part of my responsibility here at FAI is I am the liaison between FAI and Citizens. So certainly reach out to me as well if you feel like you want to kind of just have a conversation about some of this. But it is definitely impactful. It is definitely something that's in line to starting in February of 2022 and beyond. So as you're looking at that renewal book and you're feeling those questions from your customers, and if you need some assistance, certainly reach out to us and we'll get you to the right people.
Good deal. Okay, a couple of other things that we're dropping, Dave. One is loss history reports. We just did that a couple weeks ago. We pushed loss history reports for our personal lines products up to the point of sale. We think this is a good thing. We know it's a good thing to empower the agents to look at the risk before it's bound when it comes to prior losses versus what we did in the past, and that's order these loss history reports after the agent submitted it. And once in a while, the customer may forget, lack of candor, whatever, but nothing's worse than binding that policy, submitting it, and then a couple weeks later, there's claims. Now we've empowered the agents to evaluate that up front. We're giving you the information on the loss history reports and allowing you to do what's necessary to adjust them appropriately if you think they're wrong, and our underwriters will work with you on that. But we think this is an important piece to move up from a customer experience standpoint. We do realize that the agents now are evaluating that. Policy Center will give you the logic if it's not eligible, but we do believe that was an important advancement. Along with Dave, OFAC is the Office of Foreign Asset Control. You'll see a bulletin coming out in a week or so where Citizens is required to do OFAC. I know we talked about this a little bit, Dave. But the main thing with OFAC is it's under the hood. The agents shouldn't experience anything with this in terms of the back-end checks we're going to be doing on consumers. This is not credit. Okay, we do not order credit. But the big takeaway that we're going to work messaging on with agents is this. A social security number helps your loss history report quality. For OFAC, for this, we're going to be requiring it if the customer has one. The agent can say the customer doesn't, because we know some people don't. Okay, but if those customers have socials, we're going to need you to put those socials in, okay, for both loss history reporting and for OFAC. But again, Citizens is not ordering credit. We are not hitting consumers' credit reports. We don't do credit scoring. We don't do credit profiling. Okay, we are not in that game. But we do need the agent's support to get those socials from consumers and put them into the system. Okay?
Yeah, let's just set the stage a little bit more on that. You know, Carl, when you first spoke about this, it is something that came out of an audit that was conducted by the state of Florida. And this is something that not only Citizens, but really every carrier that conducts themselves in the state of Florida has to undertake. So
yes,
Citizens is now doing that. They were kind enough to have a call with myself and Laura Pierce, our general counsel, with Carl and Belinda Miller. And so we walked through this whole process, and it looks like it'll be pretty seamless. As Carl said, it's really under the hood. It'll run in the background, and certainly if something kicks out, what's the alternative if something kicks out, Carl?
If something kicks out, Dave, it means that we're getting a hit on a list from the Treasury Department that that entity is not eligible to do financial transactions in America. I can tell you it's a pretty rare circumstance, but it can happen. And if it does happen, it may not be an accurate hit, which means we would work with the agent and the consumer. And there's remedies. Okay, Dave, I would say it's not one and done. There's going to be transparency if we find something. And the analysis we've done says both for agents and for customers, this should really be a non-event given what it's intended to point to, but it's a necessary one, Dave. It's a federal law that we do this. We have to comply with it. There's severe fines if we don't. And all carriers are obligated to run these kind of checks to stay inside the lines of the law. But from an agency perspective, I would say both the agency and the consumer one is really under the hood, and I would think it would be a rare circumstance if any of you get involved in an OFAC hit that would prevent us from doing business with somebody.
Yep.
But if it happens, you'll know.
And again, when that bulletin comes out, certainly if you have questions, concerns, staff is concerned, messaging may be part of what we need to deal with here, but with clients and certainly staff, please let us know. We'll get you as much information as possible to really, hopefully settle down folks that are a little concerned about some of this. So definitely reach out.
Right. But if anyone on the line doesn't have the latest on loss history report order, and we've got great education available out there and great support, I'll cover that in just a minute. And then briefly, Dave, just the road ahead for Q1, Q2. I've got depopulation up here, February, April, June, and August. Don't forget about depop. We haven't had a depop of really any significance in the last year and a half. We just did a very, very small one with our great partners at Florida Penn. But here's what we're anticipating. We are writing record numbers of business, but we are not the permanent solution. Okay, we're actively seeking new entrants. We believe new capital will come to the state of Florida, and when it does, the Citizens book of business is a great opportunity to pick up some customers. All right, now depopulation day could be a whole Friday morning live in and of itself, right? In terms of how it's executed, how it's done, all those types of things. But I think everyone would agree it's come light years from what it used to be. And Citizens is very, very committed to match a great entrant with a great agent for a great experience for a customer. But I don't want everyone to lose sight of the fact that we are absolutely focused on moving this business back out to the private market when the private market emerges, either new entrant or existing carrier in Florida, but it happens sequentially. It doesn't happen out overnight. There are time and toll gates associated with depopulation. Okay, I want to remind agents that we have every intention of bringing depopulation back to the marketplace as soon as we possibly can.
You know, and Carl, as you said, you know, agents have certainly a major role in this process. So educating the customer, looking at the different options that will be available to them, and certainly having that discussion with a client. At the end of the day, they make that decision. So as
Yes.
this develops, yeah, Carl, we'll probably have another Friday morning live just talking about this subject, because as you mentioned, we've not really focused a lot on this over the last couple of years because there's not been a lot of interest. But now there is, and new capital's coming to Florida. They're looking at depopulation of citizens as part of their getting jump started here. So a lot more to come on this, but we'll
Yes.
as we get closer, we'll certainly be providing some additional education surrounding Depop.
Absolutely. And but for now, let's do the best we can to manage what's coming in and find those private market solutions. So a couple other highlights though: rate adjustments. Okay. We are intending to take rate adjustments where appropriate, pending BOG approval. Okay. We do intend on taking a rate adjustment in February, and we do intend on taking another rate adjustment in August of next year. Okay. Citizens hasn't been in the rate adjustment game for a while. Our Board of Governors asked us to relax some of the rate activity we wanted to take for a number of different reasons, but our board is now telling us to move forward with appropriately getting our rates in. And Dave, as you know, we're capped. We can't charge all of the rate we would need to or like to be actuarially sound. So the capping and the glide path still applies. But in order for us to be closer to the private market, we need to necessarily take our rates upward as appropriate. So for those agents that are getting back in, you're writing as Citizens today, is it going to go through a rate adjustment next year? Potentially, yes. Okay. So the idea of it sitting there at the same rate for a couple of years isn't going to be the case, right? Assuming our Board of Governors approves these rate adjustments, and the office approves them, which we have every indication they do. So the takeaway for the agents is the Citizens business you're writing today is likely to get adjusted. And you're seeing that with the private carriers now. I just wanted to be clear with the agents as well. Okay. Inflation adjustments, I don't think they'll be as severe as the one we took here, but every quarter, look for Citizens to adjust those factors on renewal and new business. And then more importantly, just like today's a great example of connecting with the agents through FAIA, look for Citizens to stand up our own webinar series to again, connect with agencies on necessary education, products, things that we know would give you an edge. So watch for those announcements and take advantage of that. Okay. They've got 3 more slides and then we're done. Property inspections. We announced through this bulletin on June 28th that we were moving towards increasing the number of property inspections. And there's been a lot of agent chatter and feedback on this, okay? We're doing this for a couple of different reasons, as articulated in the memo, but remember, the quality of the home is important to Citizens. Citizens, some people, we're the insurer of last resort. I mean, you could say that, but we have quality standards. Our homes have to be insurable. We have an underwriting rule that the office causes us to enforce. We just can't take damaged property that no one else will insure. The home has to be insurable with another company, okay? And that means the condition's important. So we are going to be ramping up our inspection programs, okay? And you're probably seeing some of that, but I would anticipate Q1, Q2 next year, you're going to start to seeing it scale even more, okay? This is the process that we do right now. Admittedly, right now, Dave, I'll be the first to admit, the agent is notified of an inspection through an activity and policy center, okay? I'll be the first to admit that that's probably not optimal. What you're going to see Q1 of next year is an email going to the consumer with a copy to the agent that the inspection is in play. We think that's going to provide necessary visibility. allow the agent to understand what's happening, and boy, do we need the agent's support here, okay? I know our application says Citizens has the right to inspect, but you're trying to do a lot of different things with the customer at point of sale, okay? But I would start conditioning your customers that the likelihood of their home being inspected is there. It didn't used to be with Citizens, now it is. So will my home be inspected? Yes. And if that necessarily causes the customer to pause or you to pause, then that's an important consideration as well, right? To the quality of the property, quality of the risk, because we do care, all right? But inspections are going to ramp up exponentially. And Dave, we're all over this. We're into agent feedback on it, agent roundtable feedback. As many of these as we're going to do, we've got to execute flawlessly. And that's great customer communication, great agent communication, and great results. The other piece of this, Dave, if I can certify to these new entrants on our Depop carriers that we've got great properties on the book, we believe they're going to be a lot more confident. Okay, so understand that this inspection is not just about the Citizens dimension of quality. I've got to move this book to the private market. Okay, and the more confidence I can give those carriers because we've done this, the better we're going to feel. Dave, anything on inspections? I know it's come up with your agent conversations in the past. Anything you want to?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with one and then I'll read you one. But you know,
Sure.
looks like you've contracted with some inspection companies to do these.
Yeah.
What's the process once this inspection is done? What happens then, Carl, after the inspection?
Once the inspection, once the inspection's ordered and the customer either allows us into the home to complete it or we just do an exterior, the results are sent over to our underwriting department and they're going to make an evaluation on that inspection. My instincts are, and what I know about the process is that if there's a deficiency or there's something regarding that property, our underwriters are pretty diligent about reaching out through how? An activity in Policy Center. They're not going to call, they're not going to send an email. They're going to send you an activity saying, hey, we've got this inspection, something's up. If they decide to cancel the policy because of the condition of the property, you'll be notified of that via your email that we send whenever we send a customer document and an activity. My experience has been, though, Dave, that if it can be remedied, if it's a deficiency that the customer can fix and repair, okay, then we're certainly open. Our ears are open to that. We'd rather maybe bring that policy back to life than have you redo it. But I've seen some of these inspections, Dave, and some of them are pretty far gone. It's going to take the customer a while to repair, or the customer just hasn't had the economic means to do it, and that's why it's in the condition it's in. Okay? So I would say that we're going to exercise, right?
This, this is the property inspection, but one of the questions that's come in from our friend Virginia is about the 4-point inspections.
Okay.
And so just bear with me as I walk through this scenario. We've received another request from underwriting requiring the 4-point inspection be resubmitted on the Citizens form. We called and we were not provided with any issues with the inspection submitted, only that the underwriter wants it on the Citizens form. Is there anything that can be done to help everybody be on the same page on this particular issue as far as the 4-point?
Yeah, Virginia, there can be, and I would love for you, and I'll flash my email up at the end of this. I want you to give me the specific information on that if you could. This will come up when the underwriter is, if the underwriter is looking at the inspection form that was submitted, let's start there. And for some reason, it's lacking some bit of information that we traditionally see on our form, okay? Then the underwriter is saying, hey, I don't see this piece that I need on the form you submitted, right? But if the form has the information, it doesn't have to be on the Citizens form. It has to have the information we're looking for. So I'll clear that up immediately. And if it's an oversight on the underwriter's part, we'll correct it. But if it's something we can show you, Virginia, for that inspector, he's missing this element, we need it to evaluate, we certainly can take a look at that with more detail.
I know you can't control every one of these 4-point inspections, but I suspect if I'm an inspection company and I know I'm going out to do a 4-point on a Citizens policy, that maybe I do see what's required and put it on, regardless of whose form you put it on, but just put it, put that necessary information on there. So But Virginia,
Yeah.
as Carl said, let's connect, and hopefully we can work through this one, but certainly give you some advice if this happens in the future.
Yes, absolutely. And we changed our inspection form a couple of years ago. And typically the industry followed because Citizens is such a dominant spot in the marketplace. But we do accept other inspection forms as long as they contain the same details we ask for on our form. And that's sometimes where the contrast comes in. So,
Okay.
Virginia, again, I'll flash my email at the end, and I'd like you to follow up with me on that specific case. Okay.
All right. Well, we'll keep going. I got other questions, but we'll just keep going
Very quickly.
Yep.
Automated loss history. This is just a recap. I mentioned it at the top. We're very excited about bringing this feature. We need the agent support. You have the ability to order it now at the point of sale. You're not ordering it in the Clearinghouse. You're ordering it at Policy Center. Okay. Please continue to interview your customers and get them to disclose losses and place them in the Clearinghouse. That's important because you don't want to get an offer in the Clearinghouse where they're not eligible, right? But once you bridge over, then you'll order the loss history report in Policy Center. And Policy Center will evaluate its eligibility based on the number of losses, the frequency, et cetera. Great education available on this on demand. We've got job aids, recorded webinars, and your field manager is also a resource for you for loss history reporting. And then the last thing, Dave, a preview. This is something that really hasn't gotten outside the four walls of Citizens yet, but it will on Monday. And I'd ask for the support of the agents on the call today. We are going to survey our agent community on Citizens agency technology platforms. And Dave, this has been, if the ART has brought forward, feedback over the years, it's always been, not exclusively, but a lot of it's been around the platforms that agents use to interact with us, the Clearinghouse, Policy Center, agency management systems, right? We're one of many providers, and we have taken a lot of feedback from the ART over the years, and we've made, I think, some incremental improvements, but we have a lot to evaluate at Citizens. We have a lot of things to consider as we move into the future. And what we're going to do for the first time is survey our agency community on our technology. All right. It's about 25 questions, takes about 10 minutes to fill out, but we are interested in your feedback. And we're going to ask you questions about quoting, eligibility, binding, document submission, payments, claims, your queues. We have feedback from the ART on these, but we want to get a wider audience involved in what's the level of satisfaction today, what could we take away to improve, and then what can we do systematically as we get ready, Dave, to evaluate systems like Clearinghouse, evaluate systems like Policy Center. It's important that we get a broad base of feedback from the agents, because I think the agents, and I think you would agree, as good as we are as a company, most company, the interface that the company has with the agency is the story, right? It's the story in the relationship. And we obviously recognize, right, that we have an opportunity to get feedback in this space. And this survey is designed to do it. So I hope the attendees on the call today watch their email Monday. This will come out Monday. And we really value your feedback. And Dave will be sharing it with the ART and obviously with trusted partners. This helps us, though, get necessary direction on what's the most important thing to fix, where can we make the improvements. But I think this is just a demonstration of our commitment to acknowledge the opportunity and get the feedback that's necessary as we move forward, with new ways of doing things.
Carl, again, put a bow on this. We learned a lot, unfortunately, through the Gulfstream failure of trying to move all those policies within 30 days and using Clearinghouse, using other resources that you made available to agents. But at the end of the day, a lot of that process took quite a bit of time, and we learned, maybe there's a little better way. And so Citizens, Kelly Booten's on this call today. And Kelly and her team, Carl, and it rolls up to Barry. They've decided to get feedback as they look at the landscape of moving forward with their systems, their technology deck, as they call it. So certainly, please fill it out. You're in these systems every day. You understand some of the concerns. You understand some of the nuances that maybe will be helpful as they look to the future of broadening their technology, stack with agents. So we'll write about it, but agents, please on this call and pass it along to your staff. If you get the email, please complete it so they have quite a bit of information to work from as they go out and build something out for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dave, as you know, we're this technology we purchase, and this feedback is just going to be so invaluable to us as we look at the road ahead strategically. So we are encouraging agents. We hope we have high participation in this survey, and certainly looking for the folks that are getting a heads up today to be some of the first to respond. So have a cup of coffee, sit down with it, give us your feedback. It is appreciated, and we do want to make it actionable as we move forward. So
and trust us, we'll talk about it. We will talk about some of the results. We'll talk about some of the things that they're looking at down the road, and as they look to add systems and move from one to the other. So certainly you'll see some of your responses being taken into consideration.
Absolutely. So Dave, that's what I had. I want to use the balance for questions in the chat, or really anything I talked about or anything I didn't talk about. I'm more than happy to take some questions and see what we can do.
All right. Take a sip of water, because here we go.
Okay.
Secondary roofs. For example, a flat roof over a porch, non-living space. Is the roof required on a 4-point or wind mitt? Also, if a home has a hip roof, except the flat area roof over the porch area, are we allowed to give the hip credit to the roof since the flat roof is over non-living space? Now, that may be a little outside of your
I appreciate the question. I absolutely appreciate the question, but I'll be honest that I would be freestyling.
Yeah.
The response to that.
Michelle, we're going to get you an answer to that one, Michelle.
And those questions are welcome. Those questions, and that's my email down there. The questions are welcome. If you have anything on a specific risk that sounds like, or anything in general, today's about that. But I may defer some of those more technical questions to my mailbox. And
we'll get them to you. So the next one, Carl, and again, we don't hear about this too much anymore, but I know with growth, there's certainly opportunity because you've had to, add some additional underwriting staff. So sometimes when an agent calls, you get an answer and then they call back on a similar risk or even the same risk, and we get a different answer. So certainly, I know you have addressed those over time, and I know, staff is being educated as you learn of these. But one thing that this question centers around is certainly the agency violations, the violation notices. So I submitted a wind mitt. One picture was accidentally not scanned, in which I scanned in when I uploaded the document. When the roof credit was taken away, I saw the error. I uploaded the missing photo and was then issued a performance violation for the missing picture, stating I had circumvented binding guidelines. I feel like we get beat up a lot, and blah, blah, blah. Is there a better way maybe for this to be handled when inadvertently a picture doesn't get scanned or a copy of something? I know you've looked at these and you've intervened on some of these, but what's your thought here?
Yeah, it's a really good observation, and the program itself I'll call it, it's a necessary thing given the volume of agents we have. I think everyone can appreciate the fact that having 8,000 appointed agents, we need some type of indicator if those agents, I call it, need help, right? I wish this was a performance help, not a performance violation, but it's called what it is. Our underwriters are instructed that as they evaluate that risk for the first time, what condition is it in? And if there's a deficiency to it, given the program, they have the ability to issue those, okay? Now, we also built into the program, Dave, what I call Slack. It's not one and done, okay? Agents have the ability to have multiples of these before even a warning notice is sent, let alone an action taken to suspend an agent, okay? I'm putting the field manager's name up here because the field managers will tell you they're actively involved in these types of conversations. They are an advocate for you, not necessarily to overturn it, but to help you understand what drove it, what our decisioning was. But on occasion, they will bring it in. We can always give things like that a second look, but understand with thousands of agents, I need to have consistency in the program. So it's a very delicate balance we strike. But the last thing I want is someone feeling like, I mean, one little mistake in Citizens is going to kill me. We know agents are going to make mistakes. That's why we build Slack in it. That's why we build a stair-step program. Dave, I think the fact that we do, and we talk about this at the MAC, we send warning notices to agents. And from warning notice to actually taking a discipline on an agent, it's 10%, maybe 5% of the time it happens. So I think by the time we get to that warning notice stage, the agents are aware of what we're looking for. They're more diligent. But we'll recognize everybody makes a mistake. But just because you get one of these, we don't feel bad. We know it's going to happen. Your reputation is still sound with us because we know you're trying to improve. And if you feel like you need some advocacy on something, get it either with me or field manager, and they'd be happy to make that case for you.
Okay. And I think that's part of it, Carl, and we talk about that. And certainly when you're getting the binding violation, you feel singled out and you feel like, oh my gosh. But understand, as Carl put up that chart earlier, with the growth of agents, even beyond the current count, it is a little tougher to manage that many without having some, benchmarks in place. So I know it's frustrating.
Yeah.
He's here to help. I'm here to help. His field folks are here to help. So don't ever hesitate reaching out, and we can try to navigate that a little bit better. And the other part of this, Carl, and you'll agree, you all learn from it as well when you hear about these examples. You all, take those to heart and you say, okay, how do we better this process? So I know some of that works on both sides, learning about it and seeing what we can do to make it better. So.
Yeah, and I will say this out loud, Dave. I think as we look at the program, and the art has been very good about feedback on this, and as the program evolves, there's really, to me, just me talking out loud. I'm not making any policy changes here. But what I hear from agents is exactly what's being expressed here. There's kind of an admin, oops, I missed a step. Okay, and then there's the other thing where agents are discounting inappropriately.
Right.
Okay. I think everyone on the phone would agree that second thing I brought up, you absolutely want us policing that, right?
Yep.
It's other element, Dave, that gets into this system that is, I can appreciate that agent's concern and feedback. So we have to continually look at it, make sure that we're doing value-added things, but mainly the one part about the program, policing the landscape, we're very, very committed to that and making sure that an agent isn't, I didn't understand how win-loss litigation works, so I gave the customer $1,000 discount. Really? That probably something you want us policing. Right?
Yeah.
And that's people rolling. So, okay. What else, Dave? What other questions?
This goes along the lines of me asking you about the process of a new agent signing up. Mary Ann reports, just signed up yesterday, received my training email this morning. Have not had a need until now, praying it will be few and far between. And Mary Ann, we hope the same thing, but unfortunately right now the marketplace is dictating a little different there. So you may have to, access Citizens a little bit more over the next several months. So now that you're appointed with them and go through some of the training, agency outreach has been a helpful resource, Carl. So Michelle reports that your team of field managers and you at the helm have been doing a great job in supporting, Michelle and her team, and certainly others on this call. So shout out to those, and some may be on this call, I don't know, but certainly to your team there at Citizens.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
And again, I'm running more and more into situations where property doesn't qualify even at Citizens, mostly due to occupancy. Will Citizens continue to restrict their underwriting guidelines, make it even harder to place coverage there? Danielle, a lot of this is dictated certainly of the way this residual market is set up. So there's certainly things they can and cannot do. And unfortunately, some of it takes legislative change, and certainly some of it has to be approved by the OIR. So, Carl, I know we have talked with you all about different things and certainly changing some of the, the underwriting guides, but certainly sometimes you're kind of hamstrung with these.
Absolutely. And this is a very common thing, particularly for agents that are coming back into Citizens, right? What is its mission? What is it here to do? And it is a little unique when it comes to residual markets from other places you might have worked. We have an obligation, statutorily and from our filed rules, condition of the property matters. It's got to be virtually insurable, not marginal or not defective. That's a huge distinction. Now, where do those customers go is another great question, Dave. And that's what I know the office takes an interest in, and you guys take an interest in, because people need help, and agents want to be in a position to help. But for now, the Citizens rules are what they are, and they're intended for that way for a number of different reasons. Primarily, think about who we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be moving people back out, okay, to a large degree, and also to stabilize the market. But it's very important that the quality of our book rival a private company when it comes to the condition of these homes.
And I know this comes up from time to time, Carl. Is there a chance of extending the 5-day rule for documents? We seem to have a lot older customers that are not up to date on technology, are not able to do electronic signatures, so we need to use the mail. USPS being being a bit slower on delivery, we have gotten dinged because of something that is out of our control. So Eve asked that question, and certainly I know this has come up in the ART and MAC and other groups that you guys convene to discuss some of these things.
Absolutely, and I'll let Eve in on a little, I won't call it inside baseball, but it kind of is. Eve, the ART addressed that concern, and let me clear up a little confusion for you. Right now in Policy Center, if you don't submit your documents within 5 days of the effective date, you get an alert. Policy Center says alert, 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 5 days, no doc, right? That's an alert, not a violation. The violation doesn't kick in until day 16. Day 16 after the effective date. There's that much slack in it. Okay, I'm just telling you what the rules are. Okay.
Yep.
So, but I think if you're writing the business future effective, which I hope you are, and most do, a week or so, and then another 2 weeks on the outside, snail mail, that type of thing, I get. But even then, okay, we're not going to be probably extending that beyond that time, because our underwriters don't underwrite the business until the docs are uploaded. So the longer we're on that risk and we can't evaluate it, the more risk we're taking. So it is common, though, Eve, for people to say at 5 days, I'm getting killed. You're getting a warning, okay, that something's going on. And hopefully the majority of your stuff is coming in faster than that. And we're obviously looking at some other enablement things, Dave, down the road to help with document flow and things. But acknowledge that concern from agents that they don't want to get clipped on a performance program. But we also have some slack built in that may not be widely known.
Yeah, and Eve's point is well taken, because I think we're accessing and putting people in the Citizens that we've never had to use that resource before. So if the older population is really becoming challenged with this, certainly we can use that as a takeaway.
Yes,
claims loss history. Folks, we're going to be a couple minutes. I attended the training when I bound a policy recently in Policy Center. I saw the question asked if we received permission from the insured to run the report. Mm-hmm. However, I did not see any loss history for the particular insured. I have not seen anything showing the report in Policy Center. Is the loss history process up and running currently?
It is up and running, and based on what I heard described, you certainly have to acknowledge that you got the customer's permission, but then there is another necessary step. There's a button you have to push. Just saying yes doesn't initiate the ordering, okay? So I recommend that agent either send something to a field manager or drop an email to me, and I'll make sure that they get the proper instruction to make sure that they're ordering the report. We have heard some feedback from the agents that until we get used to it, it can be a little clunky on what button to push, but we'll be through that fairly soon. But it sounds like, Dave, that there might be a step that we just need to make that agent a little more aware of.
Okay. Our friend Eric is asking, in Brevard County, we're only receiving quotes from Citizens when running new business through the Clearinghouse. Are there any other carriers offering quotes in Brevard County? Also, does an agency need to request appointments to receive other carrier quotes in the Clearinghouse?
The second part of that I'll answer. The agent doesn't need to request anything. The carriers that are associated, the 11 carriers that are connected with the Clearinghouse, have full visibility into what's happening and are in full control of offering appointments to you through the Clearinghouse. Okay, nothing prevents you from dialing one of them up and asking, but I can assure you that those carriers are connected to Clearinghouse and have good visibility. Okay, obviously though, those carriers, much like you've seen on the direct side, those carriers are pulling back a bit. So if they're pulling back on direct, they're certainly going to pull back on the Clearinghouse. And Eric, I don't have the off the top of my head in Brevard. My sense is that there's probably some connection with Brevard County agencies, but is it an unusual circumstance to be an agent with no appointments in the Clearinghouse? It's not unusual. It's not, common, but it can happen depending on the marketplace, the carriers, mix of business. So you're not alone in that regard. We have a number of agents that don't have any appointments right now, but that too could change. And that's why the Clearinghouse platform is there.
Okay. All right, Eric, and certainly with additional questions. So unfortunately, you're not being singled out there.
No, Eric, you're not. No, but the carriers make that call. The carriers make that decision on who to appoint in the Clearinghouse. So that's up to them.
Okay. Well, I think, we're now at 10 o'clock. We've answered most of the questions. Carl will certainly make sure you get with Michelle and Eve and Eric and others that have a couple outstanding things. But want to thank our friend Carl Rockman at Citizens. This is certainly the hour flew by. The power hours are excellent. The questions are great. The information that you hear from Carl, you're getting it first. You're getting it, a bulletin's going out Monday, and you're hearing about it today. So that's the value of having Carl on, and Citizens continuing to support FAI members and what we do here for our association and certainly for you. So keep the questions coming. Carl's email is up there. He is very diligent about being responsive. He has a team that's very responsive. So if you need Carl, certainly reach out to him. Certainly I'm a resource here through the association, so you know how to find me. But we really, really appreciate Carl and the team providing this information today on Friday Morning Live. We wish you a great weekend. Some more baseball tonight, folks. Some more baseball. We have the Red Sox on TV tonight, and the Dodgers are off till tomorrow night. So if you like baseball, this is a great time of year. So thanks, Carl. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Dave Newell signing off for another edition of Friday Morning Live.